Good morning, Breakfast with Bacon fans. I am Dr. Christine Bacon, and I have someone who's got such a good message that Satan has tried to get us off the air, I think 3 times, Amanda, hasn't he? So you're finally here. My guest today is Amanda Finnefrock, and I've titled this show about the age of viability, though since we've scheduled this show, so many things have changed and added to it that are pertinent to this story. So first of all, Amanda, thank you for coming on to the Breakfast with Bacon show.
Thank you for having me.
Oh man, you reached out to me because I had another guest on the air. What made you want to reach out to me? Do you want to tell our viewers?
Because I know Jesse and Brad personally, and I've worked with them with Save the One, and I saw the interview and I thought it was wonderful.
Jesse and Brad Smith were members of the Save the One. Their daughter was born with a rare
form of trisomy. Yeah.
Right. And doctors were, all about just let her go. She's not going to live and so on and so forth. And they had a fight to get her, to keep her, their own living childhood. Now I think it's 13, right?
I'm not sure of her age, but she is one happy little girl. I've met her. She is a sweetheart.
Well, and so they belong to the Save the One organization, as do you.
Correct.
But what made you become a part of it?
I had gotten in touch with Rebecca Kiesling due to my circumstances. And, we just kind of went from there. It's been an experience, that's for sure.
What's the experience? So let's talk about that. You gave birth to 2 perfectly wonderful baby boys, yes?
Correct.
Okay, tell us about that. So you're pregnant. Is it a normal pregnancy? What's going on?
It was a completely normal pregnancy. Obviously, I've never been pregnant with twins before, but I had 2 prior children to that, and they were perfectly healthy. I've never had a miscarriage, anything like that.
And you're young. You're what, less than 30, in your 30s?
I was 29 when I was pregnant with them.
Very young, yes.
Correct. Pregnancy with twins is high risk regardless for premature labor. But we're talking usually it'll be 35 to 37 weeks normal premature
delivery of twins.
With twins, correct. But mine were born at 22 weeks and 5 days, which is very, very, very young. However, very viable now with the medical technology that is available.
It's okay. Sorry, we hear your other life in the background. That's life.
For a second.
So you went into labor. What happened that you at 22 and a half weeks?
So the week before, I was very ill. I was having migraines, and I had let them know. They told me that's just normal. But you can just feel in your body that something's not right with your pregnancy.
Right.
And I tried to tell them, and they were very persistent that it's normal, and I'm being, a little bit dramatic, that you're pregnant with twins, everything's going to feel different. So, Saturday, I believe it was a Saturday, I was 22 weeks and 22 weeks and 2 days, 4 days.
Which is relevant to this story. Correct.
I woke up bleeding. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and I woke up in a pool of blood. And I know that's not normal.
Right.
So I was hysterical, and I called my husband. I reached over to my husband and woke him up and called for him. And I said, something's wrong. I said, I'm bleeding. And I said, call Riverside right now. So he calls them, and she tells me to basically just come right in. Nothing more. I was not given their futility policies prior. So I get there, of course we rush there, and they do an internal ultrasound. Okay, so they put me in like a triage room and checked my urine, all that stuff. And then when she was doing the ultrasound, she said, huh? And she looked kind of sad. And so I looked at my husband, and she finished with the ultrasound, and I said, is everything okay? Are they okay? Are my babies okay? And she said, yeah, they're great. They're bouncing around. They're happy. She said, but they're going to die. And she told me to hold my husband's hand. She said, babies at this age don't live.
Wait, was she a tech? Was she a nurse? Was she a doctor? Who was she?
She was one of the residents there. Now, Riverside is a training hospital. So they have a ton of residents coming in and out through there. So through my entire pregnancy, I never saw just one particular doctor. It was always somebody different in the clinic.
So this person's a resident. She looks at you, says your babies are going to die.
Mm-hmm. Tells me to hold my husband's hand.
Any compassion? Was there like, oh, ma'am, I don't want to give you, what?
No.
Wow.
No. Matter of fact, I kind of felt deceived because of how basically I was told that they wouldn't really look like babies. They're not formed at that gestation.
This is a medical professional who should know better. I'm not a medical professional and I know they're fully formed.
I didn't know though, because I never thought that would happen. I had never done my research on that. So I walked in there pretty blind, and I believed her because we want to believe that when we go to the doctor, they have our best interests, right, and they're going to tell us the truth, and they're going to really try to help us because we want to believe that their motives are genuine. Good. But she did tell me they would only breathe for a moment if they did live, but it was likely they would be stillborn. So,
but she's still not yet telling you what she saw on the ultrasound. She's just all of a sudden making these proclamations, playing God.
She said I was in premature labor. She said all they could do was try to stop it, but if the babies come, they're going to die. Yeah.
What was your response?
I was devastated. It's like a nightmare. I think anybody that even thinks about losing their child, that's a nightmare. But
one child, you're about to lose two.
Mm-hmm. It was a nightmare that was real, very real, that I couldn't wake up from. It was terrifying. So
she gives you this information. Correct. What happens next? Did you go into labor? Did you stay in the hospital? Did you call your priest? Did you call your mom? What happened? What did your husband say?
We were in shock. We didn't really know what to say. They did bring us into another room. We did meet with a neonatologist. However, I told my husband, I said, I swear that guy's a priest or a chaplain, because he kept talking about God and giving my sons to God. That it was,
you have no issue with priest or chaplain because you're Catholic yourself. So that's not your issue.
No, my issue was he was a neonatologist. He was the one that is supposed to save these little babies. Neonatologists, they're the ones that intubate. They're the ones that...
They're lifesavers.
Correct.
And he's talking to you about the faith, which, okay, thank God the guy wasn't an atheist. Mm-hmm. But so am I presuming correctly, he was talking in a manner as if, well, this baby's going to die, so let me just talk to her about the eternal. So he too had given up on the life of your children?
Correct.
Before they were delivered.
Correct. This was the same day that I went in. I was there 3 days before I actually delivered. They did manage to stop my labor. It would come and go. Like I would go back into labor. That happened a couple times, and then eventually they couldn't stop it anymore. And that's when I delivered them. But he said that it would be inhumane to try.
To keep them alive?
Correct. I said, because I had told him if they're born alive, I want you to try. I was demanding, like, look, if they're born alive, you're going to do everything in your power. You're going to try. Tell me you're going to try. It was more begging. Tell me you're going to try, please. And he told me that, it just would be inhumane, which looking back, I don't understand how that's inhumane compared to what they did to my sons.
So what did they do? So there's a law there. You live in the state of Ohio, correct?
Correct.
And in the state of Ohio, they have a law that a baby has to be at what age before they attempt to keep it alive?
It's not a law. There are no laws protecting. There are literally no laws. So it's up to...
They got to pick and choose.
They can pick and choose. Any hospital can pick and choose what they decide for a policy.
And what did they decide for their policy?
They decided 23 weeks.
And now you are 22 weeks and 5 days.
When I delivered Emery and Elliot. Yes,
So you're 2 days away from the age that their
they're
policy.
considered viability, correct. But the thing is, ultrasounds are off 10 to 14 days.
Right.
You know, they refused to acknowledge that they were a little bit bigger for twins. I mean, I
see this pains you. Let's try to get a little further past this because I don't want to make you kind of have to relive too much of this. But I thank you for going there because.
But the neonatologist, I think that's really important for him to say, well, it's inhumane. Well, if we're letting 22, 21 weekers die, I was there. I watched them die personally. When you do nothing, when you do absolutely nothing, you assure them absolute and certain death. And they suffocate for hours. So that is inhumane to me. So if you try, yes, it might cause them pain. It might. Probably. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt for the mom who has to be away from their
death hurts anyway. I was thinking
they have a chance at life at that point.
Exactly.
And they won't live that pain their entire life. Is there a possibility they're disabled? That's up to the parents. That is not up to a medical care provider. That is a decision that the parent has to live with the rest of their life.
How dare they make themselves God? Correct. I'm going to choose. I know you're a doctor and you can't confirm whether my child will live or will die, but you do all you can and you're human possible. You're in your talent. So your children, normal vaginal birth.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
And did they hand them to you? What happened then?
With Emery, there was a nurse in the room and she did nothing at all.
He came out, was he in your arms? Was he in the dock? Where'd they put him?
He fell on the bed. And my mom picked him up. He was still alive in his sack moving around. And she gasped. And I didn't understand because I couldn't see over my stomach and he was very small. And then she showed him to me and he was moving. He was moving his arms and his hands and his legs, kicking like a normal baby. I was not prepared for what I saw.
Was it beautiful? Was it bad? What did you see? Because you said he was still in the sack. By the time you saw him, had they burst the sack?
When they handed him to me, when the nurse did, he was out of the sack, but he looked like a fully formed baby. He was perfect. And I felt deceived and lied to by the hospital staff.
Yeah.
And then Elliot, people had come in to deliver him and they just handed him to me to die and they stood there. And then eventually they left the room because Elliot lived 2.5 hours and he was the one that was born alive crying. And I really
2.5 hours with no help shows that he could have lived so much longer with help.
Mm-hmm. But they just walked out of the room and then occasionally a nurse would come in and check his heart. And I said, what are you doing? Don't touch my son if you're not even going to help. And she just said, I'm trying to call time of death. So I'm waiting.
I can't believe you had to live through this, Amanda. I'm so sorry. You told me some of this story, but I am just so sorry. I don't know how. You must have an incredible strength that you're not even aware of, that you can live through this, tell the story, and then fight for their lives and for the lives.
I think my thing is I will not stand before my maker, God himself, and say I did nothing, knowing how bad it was. The veil has been lifted, and some people will never see this. People go through a storm, and Jesus talks about it. Oh, he invites people into a storm, and they get to see horrible things, the things that other people sitting there bearing the fruits of the land will not see. And they are stronger because of it, and they understand more, and they are wiser.
Yeah. So you're holding your...
Tell Daddy.
It's okay. She's welcome to come into the screen if she needs to.
Your book bag's right there. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no.
Right now.
You do that, and I'm just reminding my guests that this is Amanda Finnefrock, and we were talking about the age of viability because she had 2 living children and gave birth to 2 more living children who the hospital refused to care and refused to let live. So this is a very important topic, and she reached out to me to share her story, which has borne good fruit because she is now working with legislation to save the lives of other people who are put in the same position. So, I mean, that's the good side we're going to get to in a moment. So, Amanda, you're holding your babies. They're
Yes.
precious, they're perfect in every way, and they're breathing.
Mhm.
What happened next? Did Elliot, you said, died first, or what?
Go upstairs. Go do your schoolwork.
She doesn't know the full story, huh?
She's 6, so
Yeah.
we try. I mean, the details are pretty graphic, and I mean, my older daughter does because she's nosy.
That's
And she
okay.
overhears
She's probably
conversation.
her mother's daughter. She's gonna be a fighter. She wants to know the truth.
She's a good girl. But the other one, we really tried to shield her. She knows she lost brothers. She was sad, but she doesn't know.
The
I
details.
mean, I think my older daughter has taught her that the
In
doctors
heaven with
did it.
Jesus.
It's their fault.
Well, so let's go to that. You're holding your sons. No one's helping you. They're trying to get a moment of death. You had to sadly go through that moment, not once, but twice.
Mm-hmm.
Were you holding your boys when they died? Did your mom hold them?
I was with my mom, but it got too hard for her and she left the room. So I was left in the room alone. Just
Where was your
holding
husband?
them. He was at work.
Oh, so he didn't know that you were delivering.
The police came to my house and told him that one of them had passed. That's how he found out. And he rushed to the hospital because he had just gotten home from work.
That's right, because he's home watching 2 other children. You're in the hospital for 3 days. He can't stay there for 3 days, not knowing what's going to happen. Oh my gosh, I can imagine what that call must have been like.
It was very wild. By the time he showed up, they were gone, and I was holding them in my arms. And he said that he walked in, and I was just very quiet. And you're very confused after something like that. It's like it happened in a great length of time, but it felt like a moment. My life was turned upside down, you know?
So Elliot died first or Emery?
Emery.
Did you know when he died? Could you tell? Did you know when he stopped breathing?
No.
But over time, you realized he wasn't breathing.
Because he was very active when he was first born, and then they get less. You can see them gasp. And when they start to gasp and their breathing changes and their movement changes, you can tell.
And he was passed in what, half hour, 2 hours?
I think it was 45 minutes.
And then you held him though, and you didn't let go of him, and you were still holding his brother who was still living and breathing for 2.5 hours.
Now, Riverside, somebody came in and they placed Emery on a table. This was the only time anybody touched my kids or looked like they were trying. But it was only for a moment, and they opened his mouth and said, "Our equipment won't fit. He's too small."
How big was he?
He was almost 500 grams, I believe it was.
But I mean, how was he?
To me?
Yeah.
Like he.
Still kind of big.
He was.
So he was bigger than your hand?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
That's why I believe he was.
Further than 22.5 weeks.
I believe they lied about how much he weighed. I believe a lot of things were put in my records that shouldn't have been.
To cover them.
To cover them, correct. To make an excuse as to why they didn't do it, whether it be their policy didn't fit. Because some hospitals, if they're under 500 grams, they're not required to try. So do I think they lied about his weight? Yes. Because I never saw anybody take his weight. And nobody touched Elliot at all. So how would they have gotten his weight? Nobody touched him. They literally handed him to me, and like you see in the video, and I held him till he died.
So your mom went out when Emery died because she couldn't handle it.
When Elliot died.
Elliot died first. Okay, so Elliot died.
Emery died, but then I delivered again and delivered.
Oh, he died before you delivered his brother.
Correct. And then
Oh, I thought you were holding both of them. Okay.
So no, I gave birth to Emery.
And you held him till he died.
Correct. And then I asked the nurse, what happens now? So because I've never delivered twins, I said, will he come right away? Or they were fraternal. So two different sex.
Right.
Correct. So I said, what happens? I don't know. And she said, well, he could come in minutes, hours, days, weeks? We don't know. And she shrugged her shoulders.
How heartless.
Huh?
How heartless.
Yeah. They were incredible. In my opinion, they were incredibly heartless. And in my opinion, it was malicious.
All right. Well, I'm probably getting more details because I want to kind of get to the good, better parts. I don't know if there's a good part, but so now you gave birth to, so Emery has passed. And how long after that did you give birth to Elliot?
I want to say I don't know exact time.
That's okay.
But
Ish. Minutes, hours?
About an hour, maybe.
So you gave birth and they put him on top of you as well.
Correct. But I was hopeful when he was born because he cried, you know. And they didn't do anything. And then he died, and then I picked up Emery, so I was holding them both. And my mom just said it's too much, and she had to leave the room. She couldn't. And then my husband walked in, and he said, are they alive? Are they dead? What's going on? They didn't even tell him. So it's...
What happened next?
What happened next?
You had to hand your children to these callous people who didn't care.
So about 2 hours later after that, we get a knock on the door. My husband and I were holding our sons, and the nurse says, you need to do something with their bodies. My husband and I looked at each other like, what did that mean? What do you mean we have to do something with their bodies? And she said, you either need to take them down to the morgue or call the funeral home. So I called a funeral home, and I went to walk downstairs. They were letting me walk around at this point. They hadn't checked me. They were letting me walk around. I had walked downstairs to call the funeral home, and prior to doing so, I was very upset. I just lost both my sons. They did nothing to help them. Other things that I can't disclose were said and done on their end. It was very malicious, in my opinion. So they ended up calling security on me because I called them baby killers. I called them baby killers because a nurse had come up to me and she said, I'm really sorry. And she was one of the nurses that refused to help me, that denied my transfer. She was a part of that. They held me there against my will. They threatened my husband.
Well, let's talk about your transfer. So what does that have to do with anything? Why did you want to transfer?
They were treating me terribly. They were telling me.
If you had gone to another hospital, would they have tried to save the lives of your children? Was this policy just at Riverside or what?
So I have a friend her husband's an OB over at OSU. And I had spoken to her like, this is what's going on. I don't understand. I was very confused about the situation. And she had disclosed to me, go to OSU. My husband's not there, but his colleague will take you. They were waiting for me. They had Children's Hospital on standby there. And so I had told the resident there and that nurse, I want to transfer at this point. If you're saying my kids are going to die, these people are saying they're going to give them a shot, I want to transfer.
And they wouldn't let you leave?
No.
Could you have walked out the door? Were you not capable?
I tried to do that. They threatened to, there were threats made, let's just put it that way, towards me. And they had threatened my family with arrest if they aided me. I mean, this is
in America, Amanda.
This happens all the time. So the longer.
That's why we're doing this show.
Correct. So I'm an advocate now, and all the cases are very, very similar that I deal with. They're all held there against their will. People go all the time, why didn't that mom just pick up and leave? You can't just pick up and leave. You'll be sedated, strapped down. They'll figure out a way to keep you there, mark my words. And if your family tries to aid you out of that hospital, they're going to be arrested because they're going to believe the medical professionals over you, the patient, who is paying to be in that establishment. And to me, I don't understand that. But I mean, I believe it's a lot to do with money, insurance. So it costs a lot to keep these babies alive.
So you want to do this show because you wanted to teach people that we can fight for ourselves, but there's specific ways to fight. And in addition to learning how to be your own advocate, you have also started working with a congressperson on a law. Can you tell us about that?
He's an Ohio State Senator. I'm working on Emery and Elliot's law. It's the basics of it is no denial of treatment. No child should be denied treatment at birth if the parent says try you to try. We talk about the transfers and different things, but we're still working it out through drafts. But we are really excited for this to get dropped eventually. There are a lot of things to work out. You can't just do legislation. You have to work with physicians who know and understand the viability and how to save these kids and what needs to happen in order to save these kids. So there's a lot of people involved in this legislation. I'm not a doctor, but I've learned a lot over the past 3 years.
Kidding. Yeah, because this was only in 2017 that your boys were forced to die.
Correct.
Wow. Well, what a learning curve it is. You know,
it was a forced learning curve, but yes,
it was.
My goal is that nobody has to deal with this again.
And you've learned since it isn't even just babies. It's so you had an incident with your own health where you had to learn to be an advocate, and it kind of came against you. Are you able to talk about that? Because you and I have had a lot of private conversations. We'll talk
about it. I mean,
okay, I only want you to say
back surgery not too long ago, about 5 months ago, and I had gotten a phone call because I was in a lot of pain. They made me do an MRI and re-herniated a disc. They had told me, you're going to need surgery again. Of course, I'm like panicking because back surgery is no joke. Recovery from back surgery is no joke. And the lady was really rude. I filed a complaint and they discharged me as a patient. And I was told that.
Would you file a complaint about?
The woman.
Oh, because her attitude.
I did not want her in on my surgery if she was going to act like that, which we have that right because we are unconscious. We don't know what somebody's going to do.
So you had told somebody, I would prefer not to have Dr. So-and-so work with me. And immediately you find out, well, we're not going to take you on at all, period then.
Correct.
So they kind of blackballed you.
Told it was a liability issue. Yes. I became a liability.
What did you think when that happened? Were you like, wow.
I thought, oh my God, my back really hurts and they're telling me I need surgery. What do I do now? I felt very abandoned.
Well, you were.
Yeah.
I mean, but good came out of that because you did find someone else who had you do something besides surgery.
Yeah. So steroid injections, physical therapy, a lot of alternative methods that do not require going under the knife, which is good.
Right. And of course you wouldn't have known that had you stayed there. So it was that's not always a case for other people. It's not always a good outcome for them as it was in that one case for you. But you realized something about being an advocate. And I mean,
being an advocate in the state of Ohio is hard because people know who I am and I get treated differently. I'm looked at as a liability. And so if you advocate for yourself, which people should do, know that you will be looked at as a liability, but it's worth it because you're protecting yourself or your family, which you have the right to do.
So how did you find this senator to be willing to do Emery and Elliot's law?
A lot of meetings, a lot of phone calls, working really hard, trying. I mean, it's a lot of work. It wasn't easy finding somebody to take this on. It's a big task, and I respect him and value him so much for doing this.
Yeah.
I can't disclose his name right now. We're
Nope,
not
nope,
ready
that's
for
okay.
that. There's a lot of things that still are in the works. But ultimately, he's a very pro-life person. And he believes all lives matter. So
you went through this funeral, you buried your precious babies, you have to go home and heal. How long did it take you, and how did it happen when you were like, you know what, I'm not letting this end. I'm going to fight. Did you instantly think I want to make a law, or what?
no,
How
no.
did that process happen?
Well, at first I was just devastated, right? You don't want to get out of bed, that
And
kind of stuff.
postpartum, and your breast milk's coming in, and you've got no babies to feed with them. I mean, it's mentally crazy.
My breast milk came in the day of the funeral. That happened very, very quickly. The funeral did. But I think the part in which I said, you know what, enough's enough, this is wrong, and that I went from sad to super angry, was when they called me and they scolded me for not coming to an appointment.
A follow-up?
The clinic. So Riverside, I was seen at the clinic. They're on the basement level of the hospital. Okay. Labor and delivery is on the 3rd floor. How do you not communicate that? How do you not communicate that somebody has lost not one, but 2 children? Okay. Go play.
So they contacted you because you didn't bring the children in for a pediatric appointment, or you didn't come in for yourself?
Because I didn't come in for myself being pregnant, like a pregnant.
Because you were supposed to have a 6-month appointment at that point. Ish.
No, hold on a second. Okay.
This is live TV, ladies and gentlemen. It's okay. I want people to know
3
we are real. We are not fake. We
2
didn't plan
dogs
this.
and a kitten. I mean,
And I wanted you on the air, and if I had to wait for you to wait for your kids to grow up and leave the house, then it wouldn't have been as good a show. So we do it with you being a mama and a wife.
Can't even
Yes,
remember.
so the hospital's like reprimanding you for not showing up for your appointment, and you had to say to
They
them,
thought
my
I was
boys are
still, the
dead.
clinic thought I was still pregnant.
Yeah.
They were scolding me, claiming I missed an appointment, like a pregnancy screening.
Yeah. I'm sorry, your people killed my babies, so I'm not going to be there.
And to cover their butt, they also put in my record that I missed a bunch of appointments that I did not miss. Basically making me look like
Some irresponsible.
Yes. I'm responsible. I'm irresponsible. I missed all these appointments. They slandered my records. I will say that.
You know what's really funny with this current election and this party of death that we see? I have learned that nothing surprises me that one party will lie all they can to allow the laws that they want to kill babies to just, I don't care. They'll say what they need to say. They don't care if it's truth, because their goal is to kill babies as much as they can, to make money, to sell their organs. And your feelings, oh, well, whatever, we'll lie in the papers. But you know what, Amanda? They can lie to all of us, but one day they will stand before God. And God will say, you can't lie to me.
Well, unfortunately, their lies, I mean, they're pretty obvious in that paperwork. They didn't do a good job covering up their lies. And sometimes that's what happens when a patient fights back, right?
Mm-hmm.
They slip up. And
Are you allowed to say, is there a lawsuit? If you're not allowed to answer that question, don't.
I can't discuss anything.
Okay. Okay. I didn't know, but if you were able to. Well, I know if it were me, I definitely would have a lawsuit. So don't make any facial responses at all. So, how did you contact this senator? How'd you find him? Who gave you his name?
Lots of meetings, lots of phone calls. You start from nowhere. Okay. You don't know anybody, and you've got to connect with people. So it's lots of phone calls and lots of no's and lots of, you can't do this. No, no, no. And I swear if I listened to all those no's, I wouldn't be here today. Right. But it's a matter of not giving up, holding strong, believing this is worth fighting for, believing that this is wrong. I remember burying them going, this is wrong. I couldn't even stand there the whole time we were burying them. I had to walk away because I just was like, this is wrong. This is what not supposed to happen. This was not supposed to happen. And then they lied about their viability. So let's talk about age of viability. They told me my sons had a 1% chance of survival.
You talk to me about that and how they do statistics. Let's tell our viewers. They say it's a 1% chance because of all the people who have lived. It's been but they don't let them live because they kill them before they get a chance. So say how you said it to me, because you're way more articulate than I was.
For example, like let's say I go in there and they have a computer, they have a program on the computer. It's kind of like a calculator. This is how they determine viability, not through assessment, but through this outdated calculator. It basically says, is it 1 or 2? Is it a multiple pregnancy or singleton pregnancy? Is it a boy? Is it a girl? Because that makes a difference. They told me because my children were boys, that they were
higher risk.
The runt of the litter is what they said to me. They said, had they been girls, it might have been a little different.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Whatever.
That's wrong. They should never do that. But that's something they use on my calculator as well. Just simple little questions like that. How far along are they? And then they hit a button, it calculates it and gives a percentage, and that's what they're basing. And so that's how they form their opinion.
Right.
You want to come say hi? My daughter wants to come say hi.
What's her name?
Sarah.
Hi, Sarah. You're on TV.
Literally.
What kind of TV? TV. No. Well, then you need to go put your lipstick on and comb your hair because everybody's watching you.
See, I've been doing schooling all day.
I understand. I have 3 grandchildren here that are doing school all day. So
say bye.
If you want to be part of the grown-up conversation, you need to sit down and share your answers. But if not, you need to go play.
Do you care if she asks you a couple questions about Emery and Elliot? Would you mind?
I don't know.
You don't have to answer, and if you don't want.
I gotta go get my period.
She's gonna go play
until 2:10 because that's my break.
Okay, love you.
It's right there.
So
live TV. Yeah.
It is live TV. That's it. It's okay.
And Sarah.
Bye.
Bye.
And this is why you fought for the life of your boys, because that's life.
I love kids.
That is fun. That's God. That's God. He created them. But you had to fight your butt off. And let's get to some positive stuff. So Ohio's a pretty pro-life state.
Yes. So I have a good feeling about my legislation, I think.
Right.
I think it's really going to uphold the protections of the people of Ohio.
So what is, no, it's okay. Sorry, I'm just trying to look at our viewers' comments while you do that. So
their comments.
No, I haven't looked yet because I'm looking at you. I haven't had time to do that. So what is the approximate time frame for this maybe going? What needs to happen for this to go to legislation?
Meetings, lots of meetings with different medical professionals. There needs to be facts looked over. I mean, there's lots of things that need to happen. Negotiations, before it can even get dropped, we need to make sure that we all agree on it so the bill is not killed, if we're being honest.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we do not want to put it up there and then that happens in legislation. Bills get killed.
What is this bill hopefully going to say? It's going to say that a child born at any age gets a right to live, a child born breathing. What do you hope?
Yes, we are very, very specific in the legislation as to what alive is as well.
Yeah.
Breathing, movement of the chest, movement of the hands, movement of the mouth. We are very, very specific because we really don't want any loopholes around this legislation.
Yes.
That's important to us.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be all those things, maybe just one of those things. You know, hands are moving, chest is moving.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, because they could say, oh, well.
His hands were moving, but his chest wasn't, or he was breathing, but he didn't have movement. So if this drops, when this drops, and it passes, because I'm going to just trust in God that this is going to go through. What is that going to look for babies born in the state of Ohio? That every child will have a chance to live and no parent should have to fight for this chance They don't all know the laws though, so maybe we need to make sure all of the moms and dads are like, this is your right when you go to the hospital. Know this, have it printed out. What are you thinking?
I think the biggest thing about this legislation that's really going to give it some teeth is going to be futility policies. I did not know there were futility policies prior to admission, so I was stuck there. I could not transfer, right? So I had no idea that was their policy, not until they admitted me, right? So futility policies, we really want them to be handed out prior to admission and signed. Not just handed out, not for the family to just go over. It needs to be looked over and signed, not just by the patient, but by a witness. I think that's very important because walking in there when I got admitted, I still had no idea. I didn't know until I got put in the other room and that neonatologist came in and told me, but he did say at 22 weeks and 5 days, it's documented in my records that they would intervene. They never did.
Well, I'm going to be hopeful, and I am assuming this is going to pass. And when it does, I'm going to change the questions that I normally ask to end my shows. But when it does, and you go to heaven, and you meet your sons, what's the first thing you want to say to them?
I love you.
Your life had meaning. They may have lived only a short time, but their lives had meaning.
Yeah. I don't want them to have died in vain. There to be value in this. And to save other people, not just save their bodies, right? But save their souls. Because when a parent loses a child, divorce is in the mix.
Right.
Very high, very destructive behavior, such as drug abuse and different things. And as you know, Ohio has a very high opioid crisis already, epidemic, suicide. There are just a lot of things that can occur, families destroyed, torn apart because of the loss of a child. And you add this kind of issue in the mix, it can be very destructive. So my goal is to help families. And if they try and they don't succeed, at least the families know.
At least they tried.
At least they tried. At the end of the day, they can say to themselves, well, that was God's will. You know, they're not holding any anger or resentment towards anybody. They can be at peace. They can make peace with it. It is hard for me to make peace with it because I know what happened. You know, they didn't just, I had a miscarriage after I lost my sons. I'm at peace with that. I was able to easily be at peace with that. It was sad, it was heartbreaking, but it was not destructive.
Right.
But a great thing, let's end it on this, is, you know, if anybody watched the news yesterday.
Yes.
Wow.
Tell us.
That was amazing.
What was amazing? They don't know what you're talking about.
President Trump put out there that he's going to put protections in place for any baby born alive. And he's also going to give funding for neonatal research.
I didn't hear that second part. So he's talking even in cases of abortion. If a baby who was being aborted and that baby lived and was laying there on the table, that evil governors like we have here, Governor Northam, can't just say, well, we'll decide, make them comfortable and let them, right? They have to save that
under
child's
any
life.
Circumstances, that disabilities, prematurities, I mean, anything.
Yes.
He said he was going to sign an executive order, so that's huge. We don't know when that's going to happen.
That seems like that would even override the law that you get, meaning it doesn't matter, even if this law, Elliot and Emery and Elliot's law doesn't go through, that this, what Trump just did, would say.
But I still think Emery and Elliot's law is very
It'll have a
important,
purpose, absolutely.
Because it is still an executive order, and, you know.
Which can be turned over with the next president. You're true. Right. Correct. I didn't think about that. So let me ask you these two questions. They're not questions. They're my last two fill in the blanks. The first one, when I die, I will know I have made a difference if
I can help people, if I can do this ultimate goal of mine is just to pass all this, get justice for my sons, help other children, help other families, take my pain and use it to help others.
Give it a purpose.
Mhm.
Okay, one last thing. This is action, because I never like to end my shows by just saying, oh, well, that was really nice to hear. I want them to have an action step. So name one thing you'd have our viewers do differently as a result of something they heard today.
Be your own advocate. Know your hospital. If there's a problem and you're seeing red flags, stand up for yourself. Do what you feel is right in your gut. If you feel like something's wrong, be your own advocate. That's so important.
Yeah, okay. Or have someone there too that can be an advocate for you that absolutely knows.
If you're uncomfortable, don't go there alone.
Yeah, true. Maybe even at this point, videotape what a doctor says.
If you feel something's, that video honestly was not meant to attack anybody.
What video? We didn't talk about a video.
The video of Emery and Elliot passing away. Which
you
recently
have a video.
Yeah, so it was released in all the articles, Lifesaving News, Live Action. But
that was your babies?
Those were my babies.
I saw that video.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Well, the video has recently been taken down by YouTube.
Because they have a liberal agenda.
They said that it violated their standards. It was abusive.
Their standards are, if this makes anyone think that life can be sustained, it breaks our standards. We want pro-abortion. We want people to think that babies die at certain ages. So that's their agenda. And they are going to be sued. I know there are people already starting it. So you know what? They have to answer to God too. Oh, I'm going to go watch that video again because I cried when I saw that.
It's down.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I think Created Equal, the ones who released the video for me, I think it might be on their website. You could always reach out to Created Equal as well if you wanted to see the video.
But you're right. Take a video. Let's let the people see so that your doctors can't lie. And it's sad to think that a doctor could lie or a nurse. But you know what? You've got to be your own advocate.
What could you imagine if I didn't? This happens to people every day. And they don't think to do that, but I didn't do it to be malicious. I did it because I wanted something on my sons. But it ended up being the one thing that made people believe me, showed them the truth, opened their eyes,
We are a visual culture. Yes, we are.
So that is your defense.
Yeah.
And a lot of hospitals are putting policies in place for no recordings. If you've got to hide it, do it.
That's right. So there might be people who want to get in touch with you or who might need information. Do you have a place that they can go to, a website, phone number they can call? Someone who is just needs to learn how to be their own advocate or protect their children.
They could email me at babyforlife.
So baby for life.
Baby for life at Proton Mail. PROTONMAIL.com.
Okay.
It's my personal email. And then you can find me on Facebook, Amanda Finnefrock, F as in Frank, INNE, F again as in Frank.
Well, they're going to see that right here. When they watch us, it'll be spelled right out here.
Perfect.
We'll try to put a link.
I have 2 Facebooks, so send.
And what about Save the One? You're a member of that organization as well.
Correct. If you wanted to get a hold of me there, you could do that.
And that's save the, and then the number 1.
The number 1. Correct.
.com.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Amanda, your story is heartbreaking, but powerful because you have a voice. And I believe Emery and Elliot are speaking through your mouth. Their life was not in vain. They did live. They are humans. They had a purpose. They had a value as equal to any king or queen on this earth. Yeah. And they are in heaven cheering you on and, giving you the strength to do what you do. So I praise God. And if it's his will, maybe he'll send you some more children here on earth, if that's his will. If not, you've got 2 precious daughters that are going to keep you crazy busy, especially as pretty as she is.
I also have a son.
Oh, you have 3 children.
After my miscarriage.
You told me that. I'm so sorry.
I had a little boy.
So you have your 3 babies. How old is he?
He's 2. He just turned 2. Ooh.
God bless you.
It's been fun. It's never quiet around.
I would think not. So I am just so appreciative that, let me get this here, that you have made time for my viewers, especially when people share such a painful story as yours. And you didn't even cry. So that was pretty good this time, right? I mean, I bet there's been plenty of times where your heart for your baby says.
One thing I wanted to address, if this has happened to you, or you know of somebody this has happened to, file an HHS complaint.
Department of Health and Human Services.
Make our government aware what is happening in our country. Share your story with them. So these hospitals, hopefully at some point, can be held accountable.
Yes.
If nobody is aware,
they'll just keep doing what they do.
They're just going to keep doing it. And the more people flooding, letting people know what's going on in our country, the more likely there is to be positive change.
Yes, absolutely.
I know it hurts. And I know I've heard this time and time again, it just hurts so bad. I can't relive it. But
well, let Amanda do it for you. That's what I say to all my viewers. If you've had a story that you want to share, but you don't have the courage or the strength to share it, it's just too painful, let Amanda share. Send this video to your friends, your family, your legislator. Tell them that you had a story similar to this and you just need them to be heard. You have a voice. We pray you get the strength to use it, because no one should have to go through what Amanda and her husband went through and what I'm guessing some of you have had to go through. So if you forget what we've said, if you want to find us again, it's always easy. No one remembers my name, but they always remember Breakfast with Bacon. So I go to my website, breakfastwithbacon.com. You'll see this show. You'll see all the other shows we've done too. We've got some really powerful topics there as well. Find your voice. And sometimes finding your voice means finding a show like this and sharing it and letting people know this issue isn't going to die. So don't forget to like my channel on YouTube. I'm so grateful that Amanda has agreed to be on it. I could talk YouTube, Instagram, all that stuff. I hate saying all of it, but you know where to find us. But like us, share us. And if you, like Amanda, have an idea for a good topic that must be talked about, contact me at breakfastwithbacon.com. Just do a media post right there. So I think we have to go. I want to thank each and every one of you for watching today, for taking time out of your schedule. I just want you to live a blessed life and fight the good fight. But until then, I'm Dr. Christine Bacon. You've been watching Breakfast with Bacon, and I want to remind you always to live your life sunny side up.